Thank you very much, Janet, for introducing me. I just want to raise your awareness a little bit about how people have a strong influence in all the scenarios that you can imagine when it comes to cybersecurity. But maybe we can go to the first slide. Didn't see that. But I don't plan to waste your time with things that you already know and do. You all know about the social engineering attacks that happen with fake emails. You know all about the viruses and Trojans and other malware that your IT department is already taking care of. And another one is that occasionally that you find those MS Office macro attacks. But that's I don't want to go into any technicality where people are also involved. But what we should take a look at is how uninformed people taking inadequate and sometimes careless decisions on all levels. There is no level excluded. What happens to disloyal people which are acting irresponsibly, or malicious people carrying out inside attacks, or people just getting tired of repetitive tasks leading to compliance fatigue, or random instructions with eroding acceptance causing fading awareness. People are not really permanently on the same level. Before I go into this slide, I'd like to go back to something that triggered my interest in the way how people think and act. It goes back when I was still in school in the 70s, and I read a book by Friedrich Fester, which the German title was Kybernetik. Actually, that the term was coined much earlier in 1948 by Norbert Wiener, a US mathematician, who wanted to describe with it the theory of communication and control. And the New York Magazine in 1996 said, cyber is such a perfect prefix because nobody has any idea what it means. It can be grafted to any old word to make it seem new, cool, and therefore strange and spooky. What has been changed ever since is now everybody has an idea about cyber, but there are no two people in the world who have the same idea. And that's a little bit of the problem, and that's one reason why, by the way, you find part IS, information security, because we love to talk about information security, not about cybersecurity. But as cybersecurity is so cool and spooky, that's why we use the term also in our own job titles. So 20 years later, I stumbled across that particular book by a Romanian-born, Hungarian-American physicist, and he is really best known for his network science and even network medicine. For him, everything is a network. And because everything is a network, whether it's technological, societal, biological, physiological, psychological, you imagine, that's why everything is linked. And because everything is linked, going into the separations, into the silos that we have chopped our industry, and not our only industry, we heard before, industries are siloed as well. That's why we have such a big problem with them. The silos, and now I'm coming back to another term that was mentioned in the panel before, risk assessments. If we have silos in risk assessments, we will never be able to assess risks properly because the linkage between different risks, the contribution of one risk at another risk can never be assessed properly. So that's a very old slide that was created a long time ago by my boss at Airbus. And he says, aviation is a system of systems, and everybody now talks about system of systems, but what's a system? A system is composed of people, processes, and products. And we heard technology very often, but for cyber or information security, technology is not really relevant. What's really relevant is how this technology is implemented. And there are 1,001 ways how you can implement the technology into a product. So the weaknesses and vulnerabilities may come through this implementation process. So for us, it's not enough just to talk about technology. We need to talk about products. So a system is functionally structured, and a system of systems where there you have connections all over the place. And it can also be connected to other systems, either horizontally, vertically, or both. So from that perspective and that foundation, the EASA approach was to address all pillars. So we started with the products, and actually when Anna von Groote was talking before also about the cybersecurity, I had to think quickly, when did we start with that actually? It was January 2006, 18 years ago. So I think we have a long history, first industry alone, and afterwards, including EASA, and afterwards even EASA driving. So with the product-specific regulation, actually as part of the certification specifications of multiple different sections, that was the first time when we introduced cyber objectives into them. Next step was then addressing people and processes, which means organizations. And Part IS is the result of that. That's the package that's in force currently and will be applicable latest by 2026. What we're currently also doing in parallel is we deal with information sharing to collaborate, to reinforce the system. We need basically to look behind the horizon in order to really get better than all the adversaries. So we have to share the knowledge about what works and what doesn't work and where are our problems. And also we have an analysis team which is set up by almost all NAAs in Europe and EASA to analyze events. And we heard that before, collaboration between EASA and CAAs in certain aspects. This is one of them. And then last but not least, capacity building and research. That includes also the capacity of the workforce to deal with the subjects. And another item, and that's research, to understand better the future of the threat landscape. So, coming to the core of the subject, the human factors, the key system asset here are people. Whether they are in the decision-making role during crisis, whether they are in the first line of defense when it comes to detecting and responding to attacks, whether it comes to adaptability to new threats. By the way, that's a link to AI. AI, at least the AI we see today predominantly, is, someone said, it's not deterministic, it's probabilistic, and it can only react to what it has seen already before because it's trained. But people don't have to have trained before to be able to extrapolate, to associate things. And so from that perspective, the people have the adaptability to really new threats, while AI probably doesn't have not. Then we have the human awareness and vigilance, which is that if you see something that's not normal, never specified somewhere that's not normal, but it doesn't make sense somehow, people will be able to sense it quickly. And last but not least, the very active role, which is access control and enforcement, which basically means you make sure that only those who are authorized to do something at a certain period of time in a certain part of the process are really able to actually do that. So there are a few categories of people that I mentioned earlier. One are the uninformed people, and it's important to make them aware of what the risks are for the organization and the different disciplines that need to be involved. It's also important to encourage to create internal networks, because only if you have created those networks, then you can exchange with other people with different disciplines within your organizations. So there's better understanding. You can have the associations of different people getting new ideas. You just get onto a higher level of knowledge, of wisdom, actually, to the process. In particular, as we are facing such transversal challenges there. And what's also very important is that, and it has been mentioned before, and I want to reinforce it now, it's very important that that the experts learn to address the people that need to receive the message, which means we have to use a common set of words, a common language, a common notion between the different people that need to address the subject. So this is something that is relevant on all levels, from bottom to top. Cybersecurity is not an organizational risk that an organization really cares about, but it cares about all the other organizational risks that are influenced by cyber. And organization usually has just one priority list, and during this, or in this priority list, they have to fit it somewhere. So the common language is very important. Then we have disloyal people, and it may be too late to bring them in anyway, but still try to educate them and to get their explicit minimum buy-in, and make sure that access control, you make sure that you can limit the effects of their neglect or unwillingness. And lastly, you have malicious people. They intentionally misuse the permissions that they've got, and you have to treat them like any other risk. And again, you have to have the access controls and the mechanisms in place to limit the effects of their wrongdoing. Another group are the operating conditions that you already know. Compliance fatigue, that's something that you already know from many safety aspects, and the same is true for fading awareness. And for the compliance fatigue, for example, you may have password change requirements that nobody follows because they act as they have to do, but they construct mechanisms so the passwords only change in a particular way that you minimally allow them to do, because otherwise they cannot remember them. Or another question is the zero trust operation, where you have to have a high granularity of individuals having access to certain resources at the time when they need them. The second one, for the fading awareness, is, for example, phishing emails or clean desk policy, which can be easily relaxed over time. Or to other examples, if you put rules in place which are not really perceived as convincing, that could be luggage inspections that rarely discover threatening objects, or another one could be vehicle access rules if people are able to enter with their vehicle, although they should not do that. So there are many areas where those effects can be seen. So the key message is remove silos, work on a common dictionary. You have to speak the same language. If you don't speak the same language, knowingly and willingly, and you verified it, then it is not really helpful. And the key challenge is really that the different disciplines use the vocabulary the same way. They need to truly understand the needs of the interacting disciplines, and that's an example that what you have here that you find at, in an ICAO document now, where we have a safety assessment and information security assessment, and they need to have a way to interact with each other so both sides understand what the other side needs. And to keep the bow tie example that you see in the slide, that's deliberately made very simple. So there are probably lots of you who say, oh, we need to change something, there's this missing, that missing. It's very, very complicated if you really go into the depth of a joint risk assessment between different disciplines. And that's about it. Thank you very much for your attention, and thank you very much.